The huge space station Starbase Huron floated quietly in the dark space near a red dwarf star. Its bright lights looked like small dots in the endless black sky. Traders from hundreds of worlds came there every day, selling rare crystals, food, and technology. Among them were humans, still new to the galactic stage, but known for their skill in machines and their strange mix of courage and curiosity. Rian was one of those humans. He worked as a maintenance engineer in the lower hangar decks. His job was simple but hard. He repaired broken ship parts, sealed energy leaks, and cleaned plasma filters. He did not talk much. Most of his coworkers said he was too quiet, but he liked it that way. Machines made sense to him. People often did not. That day, the hangar was busier than usual. A large silver-blue ship had just arrived. It belonged to the Lori, a peaceful aquatic species known for their soft voices and shining skin that looked like water under sunlight. Everyone in the hangar stopped for a moment when they saw the ship. The design was smooth and curved like a seashell, glowing faintly as if alive. Rian was working near the docking rails when the ramp of the ship opened. Out stepped the Lori ambassador. She was tall and graceful, her long robes flowing like waves. Her skin shimmered faintly, and her eyes were bright silver, calm but deep like the ocean itself. Everyone stared at her in silence. The ambassador walked past slowly, her steps light, her presence almost unreal. Rian looked up from his work, just as she passed near him. For a moment, time seemed to slow down. Her reflection danced across the metal surface of the floor, and he found himself whispering under his breath, "Wow, she's gorgeous. I wish I had a wife like her." He did not say it loudly. It was barely a whisper meant for no one. But the ambassador suddenly stopped. She turned her head slightly and looked straight at him. Her silver eyes met his brown ones, and he froze. For a moment, he thought she had misunderstood or felt insulted. He wanted to hide behind his tool case. But her face did not show anger. It was calm, maybe a little curious, as if she had heard something interesting. Then she smiled softly, a faint and mysterious smile, and walked away toward the upper decks. Rian stood there confused and embarrassed. How could she have heard him from that far? The noise in the hangar was loud, with machines humming and engines running. It was impossible, yet she had reacted as if she knew every word. His heart beat faster. He looked around, but nobody else seemed to have noticed. He returned to work, trying to forget the moment, but her eyes stayed in his mind. Later that day, during his break, Rian sat in the small cafeteria overlooking the station's docking bay. He sipped a cup of warm synthetic coffee and stared at the stars outside. "She couldn't have heard me," he whispered to himself. No way. But something inside told him that she had. He remembered hearing that the Lore had very sensitive hearing. Their communication was based not just on speech, but also on sound frequencies and emotional tones. Maybe his quiet words carried a meaning beyond what he said. While he was lost in thought, his friend Arun, another engineer, sat beside him. "You look like you saw a ghost," Arun said, laughing. Rian shook his head. "Nothing like that. Just tired." Arun grinned. "Or maybe you're thinking about that Lore ambassador everyone's talking about. You know, the one with silver eyes. I heard she's here to talk about trade agreements." Rian stayed silent. He didn't want to admit anything. "Yeah, she looked important," he finally said. Arun leaned closer. "You better not make any jokes around her. They say her kind can sense what you feel. Creepy, right?" Rian forced a small laugh, but his mind was elsewhere. Could she have sensed his admiration? Was that why she looked at him like that? He decided not to think about it anymore. When his shift ended, he went back to his small cabin. It was simple: a bed, a desk, and a window showing a part of the station's ring. He sat on the bed, looking at the stars again. He couldn't shake off that strange moment. There was something about her eyes that felt both kind and powerful, like she could see through him. He sighed and lay back, telling himself it was just an awkward moment and nothing more. The next morning, he reported to the repair center early. His supervisor, an older woman named Leon, was checking the schedule. She looked up and said, "Rian, you're assigned to assist the Lorry ambassador ship. They need maintenance on the external energy converters. You're the only one with clearance for that model." Rian's mouth went dry. "Me? Are you sure?" Leon nodded. "Yes, and don't mess it up. The ambassador's ship is delicate. Treat it like glass." He wanted to refuse but couldn't. Orders were orders. So he grabbed his toolkit and walked to docking bay 7, where the Lorry ship waited. The hangar was quiet now, with security guards keeping the area clear. The ship gleamed under the soft lights, its surface moving slightly as if breathing dot. As Rian approached, the air felt cooler. The sound of the machines seemed softer too, like the ship itself was dampening noise. He touched the side panel gently, running diagnostics through his wrist console. The readings were strange organic signatures mixed with mechanical ones. "You must be the human engineer," a calm voice said from behind. Rian turned quickly. It was her, the ambassador. Up close, she was even more breathtaking, her silver eyes reflecting the light in smooth ripples. He felt nervous again, trying not to look too long. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Rian. I'm here to fix your ship's energy converter." She nodded gracefully. "I am Siren of the Lure. Thank you for assisting us. Our systems are sensitive to the station's radiation field." Rian swallowed hard. "Yes, I'll handle it carefully." Siren tilted her head slightly. "I remember you. You were in the hangar yesterday." He froze. "Oh. Yes, I was doing repairs nearby." Her expression softened. "You spoke a thought then." Humans call it a whisper. Rian's heart skipped a beat. "You heard that?" Siren's voice was calm, not angry. Lari hearing is not only sound-based. We sense emotion carried in low frequencies. Your words were kind. You meant no harm. Rian felt his face warm with embarrassment. "I didn't mean to be rude. I was just surprised. You look different from anyone I've ever seen." Siren smiled faintly. "Different can be good. Humans often speak with their hearts before their minds. It is an interesting trait." He nodded awkwardly. "I'm sorry if I said anything wrong." "There is nothing to forgive," she replied gently. "In truth, I was curious. Few humans see beauty without desire. You saw it with wonder." Her words left him speechless. She turned and gestured toward the ship. "Come, I will show you the part that needs your skill." They walked together along the curved hull of the vessel. Rian followed her quietly, listening to her soft, flowing voice as she explained the ship's systems. He noticed how she moved with purpose, her steps almost floating. He tried to focus on the repair, but found himself drawn to her calmness. It was unlike anyone he had met before. Hours passed as they worked side by side. Siren asked many questions about human engineering. She seemed fascinated by the way humans use simple tools and direct logic instead of relying fully on advanced technology. Rian answered patiently, feeling more at ease as time went on. At one point, Siren said, "Your people build machines with emotion. You treat metal as if it feels. That is rare." Rian smiled a little. "Machines may not feel, but the people who use them do. Maybe that's why they work better." She nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is what makes humans different. You put a part of yourselves in everything you create." When the repair was done, Siren inspected the readings and smiled. "The system is stable now. You have done well, Rian." He felt proud, though he tried to hide it. "Just doing my job, ma'am." She looked at him with gentle eyes. Still, not many would do it with such care. He didn't know what to say. He packed his tools and turned to leave, but she stopped him. "Rian," she said softly, "do not be troubled by the whisper. Words born from honesty travel farther than sound." He looked at her, unsure how to respond. Her voice carried warmth, like a calm wave washing over his worries. He finally said, "Thank you, Ambassador." Siren nodded. "Until next time." As he walked away, he could still feel her gaze on him. It was not uncomfortable. It was peaceful. The memory of her voice stayed in his mind long after he returned to his quarters. He didn't understand what kind of connection had formed, but he knew it was something rare. That night, Rian stood by the window again, watching the red dwarf star glow in the distance. He thought about her words, about how humans and Lore were so different, yet could somehow understand each other in ways words could not explain. For the first time in a long while, he smiled to himself. He didn't know that his quiet whisper had already changed the course of his life, and that of an entire world. The next few days on Starbase, Huron passed in quiet routine for Rian, yet something inside him had changed. His work remained the same, repairing ship panels, sealing coolant pipes, and checking energy relays, but his thoughts often drifted to the Lore ambassador, Siren. He told himself it was just curiosity. After all, how many humans ever spoke to someone like her? Still, every time he tried to forget, he remembered her calm silver eyes and her soft voice saying, "Words born from honesty travel farther than sound." On the fourth day, Rian received another message from the station's command office. He was to report again to Docking Bay 7 for additional maintenance on the Lore ship. Apparently, some systems were not stable, and the ambassador had specifically requested his help. That surprised him. She could have chosen anyone, but she asked for him. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared his tools. When he arrived at the hangar, the Lore ship was already active, its hull glowing gently. The lights inside shimmered in slow waves, like the reflection of sunlight underwater. 2 Lore guards stood near the ramp. They were tall and moved gracefully, their eyes glowing faintly. They looked at him but said nothing. One of them pressed a control pad, and the ramp lowered. Rian stepped in carefully. The air inside was cooler and filled with a faint sound like distant singing. The floor felt soft, and the walls curved naturally as if carved from a single piece of crystal. It was unlike any ship he had ever entered. He looked around in awe. Then he heard her voice again. "Welcome, Rian." Siren appeared from the far corridor, wearing the same flowing robe as before. Her silver eyes caught the light and shimmered softly. "You came quickly," she said. "I didn't want to keep you waiting," he replied, trying to sound calm. She gave a gentle smile. "Our ship is still adapting to the station's energy field. It reacts strangely to human-built systems. I hoped you might understand the difference better than my crew." Rian nodded and opened his toolkit. "I'll try my best. Show me where the problem is." She led him to the central chamber of the ship. It was a large, round room filled with blue light. In the middle floated a glowing sphere that pulsed like a heartbeat. Siren explained that it was their ship's energy core, half organic, half mechanical. It converted emotion resonance and solar energy into propulsion. The readings on her control screen were uneven dot. As Rian began scanning the systems, Siren watched silently. He worked carefully, adjusting nodes and running diagnostics. After a few minutes, he said, "It's not the station. The energy converter is losing stability because the inner core is reacting to the metal compounds in the dock." Siren nodded slowly. "Then what do you suggest?" Rian hesitated. "We could install a neutralizing field made from human alloys. It would balance the energy difference." Her eyes brightened. "You mean human material could protect our core?" "Yes," Rian said. "Sometimes simpler metals handle energy better. Your systems are advanced, but they might be too sensitive." Siren's expression softened with curiosity. Humans often solve complex problems with simple tools. I admire that. He smiled shyly. We don't always have better technology, so we use what we have. As they worked together, Rian found himself relaxing. Siren was easy to talk to. She asked questions not just about machines, but about humans, their history, their world, their emotions. She listened with true interest, never interrupting. Rian told her about Earth's oceans and mountains, about how humans dreamed of the stars long before they reached them. When he spoke about home, Siren looked thoughtful. Your world sounds alive. The Luray once lived on the surface of our planet too, but we moved underwater when our sun grew stronger. We built our cities beneath the waves, where light dances forever. Rian imagined that scene, a glowing ocean world filled with light and peace. It must be beautiful. It is, she said softly. But beauty fades if it is seen too long. That is why I travel, to remember how it feels to see new things again. Her words touched him. He had never met anyone who spoke like that. Most people on the station were busy or tired, but she spoke as if every word had meaning. Hours passed quietly as they repaired the converter. Once the system stabilized, the core's light turned steady. Siren clapped her hands lightly, producing a soft echo that sounded like music. It is done, she said. Thank you, Rian. The ship feels balanced now. Rian checked the readings and smiled. It should stay stable as long as you keep it in this dock. Siren looked pleased. You have a gift. Machines listen to you. He chuckled. Maybe because I listened to them first. She studied him curiously. You are different from most humans I've met. They rush. You observe. Rian shrugged. I don't talk much. Machines don't mind silence. She seemed to think for a moment, then said, Silence is not empty. It carries thought, just as water carries light. He looked at her in surprise. That's a beautiful way to say it. Thank you, she replied. Our people believe that words shape energy. That is why we speak carefully. Even your whisper that day carried emotion strong enough to reach me. Rian felt his cheeks warm again. I still can't believe you heard that. She smiled. It was not the sound I heard. It was the feeling. You spoke from your heart without intent to harm. That honesty was like a clear note in noise. It reached me easily. He nodded, not knowing what to say. They stood in silence for a moment, the soft hum of the ship around them. After a while, Siren said, Would you like to see something? Sure, Rian said. She touched the wall beside her. The metal shifted, revealing a wide, transparent window that looked out into space. The view was breathtaking. The red dwarf star glowed softly, and the light reflected on nearby asteroids like scattered gems. Rian stood beside her quietly. It's beautiful, he whispered. Siren's voice was gentle. When I was young, I used to watch the surface light filter through the ocean. It reminded me of this. He looked at her and smiled. Maybe that's why you love the stars. They shine like light through water. She turned to him, and their eyes met again. Perhaps, she said softly. Or maybe I love them because they remind me that even in darkness, light can find its way. Rian felt a calm warmth inside. For a few seconds, there was no sound except the low hum of the ship. He wanted to speak but didn't know how to express what he felt. Just then, the ship's communicator beeped. Siren glanced at it and sighed. The council has called for a meeting. I must attend. Rian stepped back politely. Of course. I'll leave you to it. Before he left, Siren said, Rian, may I ask you something personal? He nodded. Sure. When you whispered those words that day, what made you say them? He hesitated, then answered honestly. I don't know. Maybe it was just the way you carried yourself. Everyone looked at you like you were something distant and perfect, but I saw someone calm and kind. It just came out before I could stop it. Her expression softened. Then I am glad you did not stop it. Sometimes a single human thought can reach where 1,000 speeches cannot. He smiled awkwardly. I'll try to remember that. As he turned to leave, she said one more thing. We will need your help again soon. Will you come if I call? Rian nodded. Always. She smiled gently. Then, until next time, human engineer. He bowed slightly and left the ship. Outside, the hangar felt warmer and noisier again. But inside his mind, everything was quiet. He felt lighter, as if some invisible weight had lifted from his heart. That evening, while sitting in the cafeteria, Arun joined him again. You're smiling like someone just gave you a free trip to Earth, he joked. What happened? Rian shrugged. Just work. The Lore ship needed more repairs. Arun laughed. And the ambassador? Did she thank you again? Rian tried to act casual. She was. Polite. Arun smirked. You better be careful. People are starting to talk. Rian frowned. Talk about what? About how the ambassador seems too friendly with a human engineer. The higher-ups might not like that. Rian said nothing. He didn't care what others thought. He knew Siren respected him for his honesty, nothing more. Still, he couldn't ignore the whisper of doubt in his mind. Would others understand their friendship or twist it into something else? When he went to sleep that night, he dreamed of light rippling across water, of stars glowing on the waves. In the dream, Siren stood in the distance, her silver eyes bright, saying softly, "Honesty travels farther than sound." He woke up before dawn, still hearing the echo of her voice. The quiet room felt different, warmer somehow. He didn't know it yet, but that simple connection had already started something larger than either of them imagined. It was not just friendship. It was the beginning of trust between two worlds that had never truly understood each other. And somewhere deep in the quiet halls of Starbase Huron, a new kind of story was quietly unfolding, one that began not with power or war, but with a whisper that crossed the line between species and reached the heart. Days passed, and Rian's name began to circulate quietly among the engineers of Starbase Huron. People whispered that the Lore ambassador trusted him more than any other human. Some envied him. Others found it strange. No one had ever heard of a human and a Lore working together so closely. Yet Rian paid little attention to the gossip. He was too focused on helping Siren stabilize her ship's systems before the next Trade Council meeting. Every morning, he reported to Docking Bay 7, tools in hand. Siren was always there to greet him with her calm smile and gentle voice. She often asked about human culture, why they built cities in the sky, how they learned to fly beyond their world, what kept them searching for more. Rian answered as best he could. He told her that humans were restless by nature, always trying to understand the unknown. One afternoon, as they adjusted the ship's navigation array, Siren looked thoughtful. You humans live such short lives, she said softly. Yet, you fill them with endless dreams. That is something my people sometimes forget. Rian smiled. Dreams are what keep us alive, I think. Even if we can't reach them all, we keep trying. She tilted her head slightly. Perhaps that is why your kind reaches the stars so quickly. You are never still. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. A group of officers entered the hangar, led by Commander Varro, a tall man known for his strict discipline. He stopped in front of Rian. Engineer Rian, he said in a firm voice. A word, please. Rian wiped his hands and stepped forward. Yes, sir. The commander glanced briefly at Siren, then looked back at him. I've been hearing reports. Some of the other ambassadors have raised concerns about the amount of time you spend with the Lore envoy. They believe it might be inappropriate. Rian blinked. Inappropriate, sir? I'm just helping with the ship repairs. Commander Val's tone remained cold. Be careful how your actions appear, Rian. The Council is watching closely. The Lore are valuable allies. We can't afford rumors that might damage relations. Rian felt his stomach twist. Understood, sir. I'll keep things professional. Val gave a short nod and walked away, leaving a heavy silence behind. Siren watched quietly, her expression unreadable. Rian turned to her. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Siren shook her head gently. You have done nothing wrong. Some see connection as danger because they do not understand it. Fear often hides behind rules. Her calm voice eased his worry a little, but not completely. He could already feel the weight of curious stares whenever he walked through the station halls. Some humans looked at him with suspicion, others with admiration. The attention made him uncomfortable. That night, he stayed late to finish an energy calibration test. Siren stood beside him, watching the readings. Suddenly, the entire control panel flickered. The ship's alarm lights flashed red. Rian frowned and quickly checked the data. That's not right, he muttered. The system's overloading. Siren moved closer. What is happening? Something's wrong with the core stabilizer, Rian said. It shouldn't spike like that unless... He stopped as he saw the numbers climb rapidly. Unless someone tampered with it. Before he could finish, a loud burst shook the chamber. The ship's walls trembled, and a shower of sparks rained from the ceiling. Rian grabbed Siren's arm and pulled her behind a control console. Stay down. The light dimmed, and the alarm slowly faded. Smoke drifted through the air. Rian coughed and ran diagnostics from his wrist console. The overload was triggered from an external control. Someone accessed the system remotely. Siren's eyes narrowed. Sabotage? Rian nodded grimly. Looks like it. Within minutes, station security arrived. They checked the area, took reports, and sealed the dock. The security chief, a large alien with bronze scales, turned to Rian. We'll need to question you, human. You were the only one inside when it happened. Rian's heart sank. You think I caused this? It is procedure, the chief said. We must confirm. Before Rian could reply, Siren stepped forward. He saved my life. He pulled me away before the explosion. He did not cause it. The chief looked uncertain. Ambassador, we will still investigate. Siren's tone stayed calm but firm. Then I will stay with him until you finish. Rian looked at her in surprise. He had expected her to distance herself from him, not protect him. But she stood beside him without fear. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something deeper trust. They were both questioned for hours. In the end, the investigation team confirmed that the signal causing the overload came from outside the dock. Rian was cleared of suspicion, but the rumors grew stronger. Some said the sabotage was staged by humans to gain favor with the Lore. Others whispered that the ambassador had shielded him because of personal feelings. Rian tried to ignore the talk, but the looks and whispers followed him everywhere. Even his friend Arun avoided him for a few days, unsure what to believe. When Rian returned to work, Siren was waiting near the ship's ramp. You should rest, she said gently. Your people have treated you unfairly. Rian shook his head. It doesn't matter. I just want to find out who did this. She nodded slowly. So do I. Someone wanted to create distance between us, between our kinds. He met her eyes. Then we can't let them win. For the next few days, they worked quietly together, checking every line of code, every circuit. Rian found traces of a hidden command script in the ship's energy network. The signature was from a faction called the Varana Group, known for opposing human expansion in the galaxy. When he told Siren, she frowned. The Varan want to break the alliance between our worlds. They fear human emotion because it cannot be controlled. Rian thought about that. So they attacked your ship to make humans look dangerous. Yes, she said softly. And they nearly succeeded. Later that evening, while testing the stabilizer again, the reading spiked once more. Rian quickly ran to the core access panel and opened it. It's overheating again, he said. The coolant line is blocked. Before Siren could react, a sharp crack echoed through the room. The energy barrier around the core flickered and burst. The entire chamber filled with blinding light. Siren stumbled back, shielding her eyes. The control screen showed a rapid build-up seconds before meltdown. Without thinking, Rian rushed toward the core chamber. No, Siren shouted. It's too dangerous. But Rian didn't stop. He knew if the core exploded, everyone in the hangar would die. He forced the emergency panel open, grabbed a manual override lever, and pulled it with all his strength. The energy pulse burned through his gloves, and he felt pain shoot up his arms. The lights flickered once, twice, and then stabilized. The hum of the core returned to normal. The danger was gone. Siren ran to him as he fell to one knee, his hands trembling. Rian! She placed her hand on his shoulder, her touch cool and soft. Her silver eyes glowed faintly. You are hurt. He tried to smile. Just a little burn. She shook her head and raised her palm over his skin. A soft blue light flowed from her hand, wrapping around his fingers. The pain faded slowly. This is a healing resonance, she said. It transfers calm energy to repair damaged cells. Rian stared in awe. That's incredible. Her expression softened. You risked your life for my people's ship. Why? He looked up at her. Because it was the right thing to do. For a moment, neither spoke. The soft hum of the ship surrounded them like music. Siren's light faded, but the warmth remained. She helped him to his feet, and as she did, he felt a strange pulse through his chest, a vibration soft and rhythmic, like a second heartbeat. He looked at her in surprise, but she said nothing. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment before dimming again. Later that night, when Rian returned to his quarters, he noticed something strange. He could faintly sense a presence in his mind, like an echo of someone's calm thoughts. It wasn't a voice, but it felt familiar. Siren. Across the station, Siren sat in her meditation chamber aboard the ship. She too felt the same connection, a soft vibration that pulsed in rhythm with Rian's heartbeat. It was something neither of them had planned. The healing resonance had formed a link between them, a quiet bridge of emotion and thought. Neither of them fully understood it, but both felt the same truth. The bond was real. In the following days, Rian tried to act normal, but he kept sensing moments of warmth or calm that were not his own. Sometimes, when he was tired or sad, a wave of peace would pass through him, and he somehow knew it came from her. Siren, too, found herself smiling at random moments when Rian worked nearby, even before he spoke, but their quiet connection didn't stay hidden for long. The rival factions noticed how close the ambassador and the human engineer had become. The rumors turned sharper, spreading faster than light through the corridors of Starbase Huron. What began as a whisper of admiration had now become a storm of misunderstanding, one that neither Rian nor Siren could stop. Yet even as the galaxy began to judge them, something deeper had already begun to grow, a bond, not of politics or duty, but of trust born in danger and strengthened by compassion. The kind of connection that once made could change everything. The next few days passed in a tense silence. Across Starbase Huron, every corridor buzzed with whispers about Rian and Siren, the story of a human engineer and an alien ambassador standing together, had spread faster than any ship in hyperspace. Some people spoke with admiration, others with suspicion. And among those murmurs, one word echoed everywhere: bond. Rian tried to ignore the stares as he walked through the hangar. He was used to being invisible, just another engineer fixing what others broke. But now, wherever he went, someone would stop talking and look at him as if he had done something impossible or forbidden. Even his co-workers, who once laughed with him during long work shifts, avoided his eyes. Inside the control room, Commander Varen stood near the large hollow screen. His face looked stern, as usual, but there was something more behind his expression, a mix of pride and worry. "Rian," he said calmly, "you know the Council isn't happy about what happened. They think this connection with the ambassador could be dangerous." Rian nodded slowly. "I understand, sir, but I didn't plan any of this. It just happened." "I know," Varen replied, "and that's why it's a problem. Things like this, they scare the higher races. They fear what they can't explain. Be careful. You may have impressed many, but you've also made enemies." At that moment, the doors opened and Siren entered. Her presence changed the air in the room. Her calm blue glow reflected softly on the metallic walls. The faint shimmer of her eyes carried both kindness and quiet strength. Rian had grown used to that gentle energy around her. It always made him feel peaceful, like standing beside calm water. "Commander," Siren said politely, "I am here to speak before the Council. They demand to know the truth about the incident. I will defend Rian's actions." Varen looked at her for a long moment before nodding. "Then I wish you both luck. The Council chamber is waiting." The Council Hall was a massive, dome-shaped room filled with delegates from more than 30 species. Colors, lights, and languages mixed in the air like a storm of sound and motion. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by floating hollow projectors. On that platform, Rian and Siren stood side by side. Facing the galaxy's judgment, an alien with sharp silver armor and 6 glowing eyes spoke first. "Human engineer Rian of Starbase Huron," he said, his voice echoing through speakers. "You are accused of interfering with an ambassador's vessel, violating interspecies protocol, and forming an unauthorized psychic link with a Luri envoy." Rian opened his mouth to speak, but Siren gently raised her hand. "Allow me," she said softly. Then, turning toward the Council, she began. "He did none of those things. The human acted to save lives, mine included. Without him, the energy core would have exploded. I would not be standing here." Her words created a wave of murmurs among the delegates. A deep-voiced reptilian creature hissed, "And what of the bond between you? Do you deny that human emotion has affected your mind?" Siren's silver-blue glow brightened slightly. "I do not deny it," she said calmly. "But it is not manipulation. It is understanding. Humans feel deeply. It is their strength, not a weakness. His emotions did not control me. They reminded me of courage." The hall fell silent for a moment. Rian's chest tightened. He hadn't expected her to speak so openly for him. The Council members exchanged glances. Some looked doubtful, others curious. Then, suddenly, a sharp alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the hall. The Council leader shouted, "Security breach. Unknown ships approaching the station." The Council session broke into chaos. Delegates rushed for exits as the ground trembled under a distant explosion. Rian and Siren looked at each other. They both knew this wasn't random. The rival faction that had tried to sabotage the ship before was back. Siren's voice grew steady. "They are here to silence us before the truth spreads." Rian nodded and grabbed a nearby communicator. "Engineering, this is Rian. Lock down the power grid and reroute all energy to the shields." Static answered him at first. Then a voice came through. "Power grid's unstable, sir. Someone's hacking into the main systems." Rian frowned. "That's what they want. They're not attacking from outside. They're inside the station." He looked at Siren. We need to reach the lower control deck. I can stop the override from there." Without hesitation, she followed him through the hallways, her glow lighting the path through flickering emergency lights. The sound of distant impacts shook the floor. The base trembled like a wounded beast. When they reached the engineering deck, they found the door sealed with a strange black residue, alien tech. "They've fused the lock," Rian muttered. "I'll have to bypass it manually." He opened a panel, connecting wires and circuits with fast, practiced movements. His hand shook slightly from adrenaline. Siren stood guard, her luminous eyes scanning the shadows. "They're near," she said softly. "I can feel their anger." "Just a few more seconds," Rian replied, sparks jumping from the control wires. "Come on, open." The door finally slid open, revealing two attackers, tall insect-like beings with dark exoskeletons. They turned, hissing. One raised a blaster, but Siren moved first. Her palms glowed bright blue, releasing a pulse of sonic energy that pushed both enemies back against the wall. They collapsed, stunned. Rian stared for a second. "Remind me never to make you angry." Her voice was calm but firm. "I did not attack. I only silenced their hate." Together they entered the control deck. The main console flickered with alien code. Rian sat quickly, typing commands while Siren stood beside him, channeling energy through her fingertips into the console. "I can block their signals if you stabilize the energy core," she said. He worked fast, sweat running down his face. The station's power lines flickered, and lights brightened again. "Almost there," he whispered. "Come on, don't fail me now." A sudden explosion shook the floor. The rival ship outside fired directly at the station. Alarms blared again. Through the window, Rian could see flashes of plasma fire. The hangar walls began to crack under pressure. He took a deep breath. "Siren, we need to redirect energy from the reactors. If I reroute the pulse through the external coils, it'll fry their systems when they try to dock." She nodded. "Do it. I will amplify the signal." Rian's fingers moved faster than ever. The entire console buzzed, heat building around them. Siren placed her glowing hands over the circuits, sending a soft, rhythmic hum through the metal. Her resonance synchronized with the machine's vibration. "Now!" Rian shouted Dot together. They released the energy. A massive wave of white-blue light surged through the station, bursting outward in all directions. The enemy ships outside shook violently, their systems overloading. One by one, their engines went dark, drifting powerless into space dot inside the control room. Silence followed, broken only by the faint hum of the restored power. Rian leaned back, exhausted but smiling faintly. "That did it." Siren looked at him, her eyes shimmering with pride. "You see, Rian? Human courage and Lorraine harmony. Together, they are stronger than fear." Hours later, the council reconvened. Damage reports showed that Starbase Huron had survived, thanks to the quick actions of one human and one alien. The same council that once doubted them now watched in respectful silence. The leader stood and spoke. "Engineer Rian of Earth and Ambassador Siren of Lore, today you have proven that unity is not just words but strength. The council acknowledges your bravery." Rian bowed his head slightly. "Thank you, sir. But all I did was what anyone would do." Siren smiled faintly. Not everyone listens to their heart when fear surrounds them. The chamber filled with soft approval sounds from several species. Even those who had doubted now whispered quietly among themselves, perhaps for the first time questioning their own judgments. When the session ended, Rian and Siren walked together along the quiet observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly outside the glass. Ships drifted peacefully once more. Rian looked at her. "Do you think they'll ever truly accept humans?" Siren's eyes glowed softly in the reflection of the stars. "In time, Yes, change begins with small actions. You spoke one honest whisper, and it reached across species. That is how understanding starts. He chuckled lightly. I never thought those words matter so much. They mattered, she said, because they were real. They stood there in silence, side by side, two beings from different worlds who had faced chaos and found peace. Around them, the vast galaxy shimmered, no longer, divided by fear, but connected by something greater. And for the first time since that day in the hangar, Rian felt calm, not because of what he had achieved, but because of what he had learned. Sometimes, the smallest voice can echo the farthest in the universe. After the attack and the chaos that followed, Starbase Huron slowly returned to normal. The sound of tools and engines replaced the alarms, and the air no longer smelled of burning metal. Yet something had changed in the atmosphere. People were calmer, more thoughtful. They greeted each other with nods of quiet respect. The story of how a human and a Lure had saved the station spread through every corridor, every ship, and every transmission wave that left the base. Rian walked down the main passage, his uniform still marked with grease from the control deck. He had become a symbol of something much larger than himself, though he didn't quite understand it. To him, he was still just an engineer who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But to others, he was a reminder of what humanity could become: brave, kind, and loyal even in the face of fear. Siren had been recovering in the medical bay since the event. The powerful energy surge had drained her strength, leaving her light dimmer than usual. Her body, half energy and half matter, needed harmony to heal. The Lure healers had arrived to help her, surrounding her with soft waves of light and sound. Rian visited every day, sitting quietly by her side, sometimes fixing small devices in the corner while she rested. One evening, as he sat near her, Siren opened her eyes. Her voice was faint but warm. You still come here every day, Rian. He smiled softly. Someone has to make sure you don't glow too bright and short-circuit the medical bay. She laughed, a soft musical sound that reminded him of calm water rippling over stone. You humans always use humor when you are afraid to say something deeper. Rian looked down, his hands fidgeting with a small metal ring he had been building from scrap parts. Maybe, he said quietly. I just didn't want to bother you. You never bother me, she replied. Her eyes glimmered faintly, their color returning little by little. Do you know what my people are saying now? I can guess, he said. Half of them think I'm dangerous, and the other half probably want to study me. Siren smiled. Perhaps. But many of them also speak of respect. They have seen that humans can act with honor. That is new to them. He looked up, surprised. Honor? For fixing an engine and causing a few explosions? No, she said softly. For feeling without fear. For standing beside someone different and not looking away. Her words stayed with him even after he left the bay that night. He walked through the quiet station corridors, watching the stars beyond the glass panels. For the first time, he realized that maybe the universe wasn't as big and cold as it once felt. Maybe there was room for warmth, for friendship, even between different kinds of life. A few days later, the council held a ceremony to thank those who had defended Starbase Huron. Delegates from many races attended, including the Lure, who appeared through shimmering holographic forms, floating above the platform. Rian stood among the engineers, while Commander Vuren gave a short speech. Today, the commander said, we remember that courage doesn't come from strength alone. It comes from the heart. And sometimes, the smallest action can change the way the galaxy sees us. When the applause began, Rian felt awkward. He wasn't used to being praised. He looked around for Siren, who stood nearby, wearing a flowing silver-blue robe that shimmered like ocean light. Her glow was steady again, full of grace. When she saw him, She smiled gently, a look that told him everything words could not. After the ceremony, Siren approached him. "Rian," she said, "I will be leaving soon. The Lure High Council has requested my return." His chest tightened a little. "So soon?" "It is time," she said softly. "My people want to hear what I have seen and felt. They must know the truth about humans." Rian nodded slowly. "I understand. You're their voice. You have to go." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the hangar filled the silence. Ships drifted gently outside the transparent dome. Finally, Siren said, "There is something I must tell you." He looked at her curiously. "What is it?" "When you whispered that day in the hangar," she said with a faint smile, "I heard your words not with my ears, but with my heart. At first, I thought they were only simple human thoughts. But later, I realized they carried something deeper, a truth about your kind. You see beauty in others, not just in form, but in spirit. That is why your whisper stayed with me." Rian's face warmed. "I didn't mean to embarrass you. It just slipped out." "It did not embarrass me," she said gently. "It opened a path between our worlds." Her hand lifted, glowing faintly as she placed it over her chest. "In my world, a bond like ours is rare. It is not romance as you humans know it. It is connection, a link of respect and emotion. You're a part of that now, Rian." He felt something stir inside him, pride, gratitude, and a strange sadness. "So this is goodbye then?" She tilted her head slightly. "Goodbyes are for those who believe distance can break a bond. We are not bound by distance." Her glow brightened slightly, surrounding them in a soft aura. "Wherever you go, Rian, you will hear me. Not in sound, but in feeling." Later that night, as the Lore ship prepared for departure, Rian stood on the observation deck once again. The massive vessel shimmered like liquid silver under the light of the stars. Crew members moved efficiently, preparing for the hyperspace jump. Siren appeared beside him one last time. Her robes flowed like water, and her expression was calm, though her eyes carried emotion. "Will you come visit the Lure Oceans one day?" she asked. Rian smiled. "If I ever get enough credits for a ticket that far, I'll come." She laughed softly. "You will not need credits. You will only need courage." He nodded, trying to hold the moment steady in his memory. The way her light reflected off the glass, the quiet rhythm of her voice, the feeling of calm she always brought. "Siren," he said quietly, "thank you for believing in me when no one else did." "You gave me reason to believe," she replied. "You showed me what humanity truly means." The departure signal echoed through the station. The ship's engines began to glow brighter. Siren stepped back, her figure fading slowly into the ship's light. Before she vanished completely, her voice echoed in his mind, soft, clear, and filled with warmth. "You already have what you wished for, Rian. A bond of heart, not of form." And then she was gone. The ship rose smoothly from the dock and disappeared into the stars, leaving a trail of shimmering light behind Dot. In the days that followed, Rian returned to his normal duties. He worked on ships, repaired engines, and helped new crew members adjust to the station's life. But inside him, something had changed forever. He often caught himself pausing during his work, looking out at the stars beyond the hangar doors. Sometimes he thought he could feel a faint vibration, a gentle hum, like distant waves. He knew it was her, somewhere out in the endless galaxy. Siren was watching the same stars. Other species began to visit Starbase Huron more often after that. The council reported that the Lore had opened their oceans to human visitors for the first time in history. Trade routes expanded, and new cultural exchanges began. People spoke of peace and understanding instead of fear and division. And every time someone mentioned it, Rian would smile quietly, knowing that it had all started with a simple whisper. Months later, during a quiet evening shift, Commander Viran walked into the hangar where Rian was working. "You've done well, Rian," he said. "The Council wants to name this new section of the base after you." Rian chuckled. "They don't need to. I just did my job." "Maybe," Viran said. "But sometimes doing your job with heart changes more than any speech ever could." The commander left, and Rian leaned back against the console, watching the stars again. He could still hear her faint voice in his thoughts. Calm, steady, and kind. He whispered softly, "You were right, Siren. Beauty isn't something you see. It's something you feel." The stars outside flickered gently, and for a brief moment, one glowed brighter than the rest, as if answering his words. Rian smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. The galaxy no longer seemed distant or cold. It was alive, full of stories waiting to begin. And among them was his story of one whisper that reached beyond sound, beyond fear, and into the heart of the stars.